99% of all manhwa is absolute garbage. In this video, I'm going to explain why I think they have such shitty writing filled to the brim with cliches. Before we begin, let me just mention that I have read hundreds of these manhwa and I will be giving a few recommendations for some of the best ones I've read so far at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned till the end. I think the way manhwa is published is a big reason why it has subpar writing. Most of the manhwa you see translated online comes from the same website, ac.qq.com, which is operated by Tencent. Now let's have a look at the website. As you can see on the screen, for many of these titles you can tell just by looking at the cover that they are trash. What's common between all the best-selling manhwa over here is that they all have hundreds of chapters. If you compare that with manga and manhwa, having more than 100 chapters is quite rare. This website follows the same format as webnovel.com. Authors can put up a paywall for 80 to 90% of the chapters, and they get money when readers buy chapters using some form of online currency. In the case of webnovel.com, this currency is called spirit stones, and you can buy each chapter based on the word count. So this incentivizes prioritizing quantity over quality. If people are buying stuff with subpar writing, then why should the author even try to write a good book or a good manhwa? Instead, authors try to churn out a lot of chapters as fast as possible, completely disregarding the writing process. I'm not saying everything on this website is trash. Some of the manhwa on this website might actually be amazing, but from a translator's perspective, it is better to pick the ones with the most views, because they also want to get as much traffic as possible on their own website, right? Because of the one-child policy in China, families spend their resources on raising just one child, which often leads to spoiled children who lack discipline.
And if your child's a horrible little monster because you're afraid of disciplining them or you don't know how to do that properly, then what they're going to do is they're going to experience nothing but rejection from other children and false smiles from other parents and adults. And so then you're throwing the child out there into a world where every single face that they see is either hostile or lying. And that's not something that's going to be particularly conducive to the mental health or the well-being of your child.
This gets even worse in rich, well-connected families in China. If a spoiled kid is from a well-connected family, then everyone is nice to that kid. Other children, parents, teachers, everybody. Because if a kid is mean to him, his parents might lose their jobs. And adults already know who the kid is, so they force themselves to be nice to that kid. And it makes total sense. Like, why would anyone want to take the risk? This is exactly the kind of mentality that you see reflected in manhwa. The villains are always well connected somehow or the other. Like, their uncle is the sect leader's cousin, or their brother is a core disciple, or some bullshit like that. The main character is the weak, unknown guy or the outcast. And everyone is nice to the villains because of their connections.
But these assholes with all this money, they get the arrogance because China rewards them for being like that. And you've noticed
Absolutely, yeah.
A huge thing is, if you look at the education system, when you see these rich kids, it starts at a young age, right?
Yeah.
These rich little, particularly little boys, they'll be like 5 years old, and they are spoiled beyond belief.
Yeah.
They get everything, and they are such dicks to the other kids in class, but the other kids suck it up.
Yeah, they do.
You know, because their parents told them, oh, just treat people well, be nice.
Yeah. No, it's awful.
But the main character just happens to rub the villain in the wrong way coincidentally during the story, because the author wants to progress the story forward by bringing in some kind of drama inside it. But little did they know that our main character is Gary Stew and he can handle all the consequences. Every school in China has that one person whose dad is a politician or something, and everyone is nice to them out of fear. What is shown in manhwa is basically what I assume to be a jealous, commoner teenager's wet dream over there. Before we move on, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this every week. Press the bell icon to receive notifications when I upload. So, the concept of cultivation is originally found in Taoism, which is a Chinese philosophical tradition that emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao. The meaning of Tao is way or a path. I don't know about the actual traditions, but in Chinese novels you can often choose what your Tao is. For example, I can choose the Tao of procrastination or the path of procrastination so that I would become one with procrastination and not upload videos for an eternity after this one. Cultivation is basically the method by which you pursue this path. Using cultivation, a manhwa character generally gets an extended lifespan and increases his or her power level. When you get a power level over 9000, you become immortal, obviously, and that happens generally at the end of the manhwa. Quick side note, Xianxia means it's going to have mythological elements. Wuxia means it's going to be about martial arts. Xuanhuan means it is a combination of modern and mythological elements. I started out reading manga and later on I got tired of reading manga because I had already read most of the good manga out there. Hence, I just wanted to get into something similar to manga to bide my time. Although manhwa has bad writing, most manhwa is still good enough at keeping the reader's attention and making them feel sort of connected to the main character. Recently, however, I have stopped reading manhwa in favor of Korean webtoons. Translation groups seem to have just found out about these and they are being picked up a dime a dozen, which I highly appreciate. Comment your favorite manga, anime, manhwa or manhua below, and if I have read it before or if I have seen the anime before, then I will reply with a rating from 1 to 10. My first recommendation is Cultivator Against Hero Society. This is a manhwa where the main character has been transmigrated from a world of cultivation to a modern world, and the modern world is very similar to the one depicted in My Hero Academia. Our main character is the only cultivator in the manhwa. It is a parody of sorts and it is a hilarious read. It has great writing as well as decent translation. I highly recommend it and I would rate it a 7.5 out of 10. My next recommendation is Release That Witch. It is in a medieval European setting which is quite common in Japanese manga, but it is a first for me in manhwa. The main character makes very good use of modern scientific knowledge and it even has a steam engine at some point of the story. It has very good writing, it is well thought out and it has really good integration of fantasy elements and amazing world building. Again, I highly recommend this one and I would rate it an 8 out of 10. My next recommendation is Global Martial Arts. It is closer to a typical shonen manga, but I think it has better writing than most manhwa out there. It's based in a modern world which also has a cultivation, and it is in a cultivation university setting. with a system assisting the main character. I recommend this if you're okay with a 7 out of 10, and I'm being quite generous to this one just because I couldn't find that many good manhwa. My final recommendation is Chronicles of Heavenly Demon. This is not exactly a manhwa, but it has a similar cultivation theme, and it has proper world building and no distracting, unbelievable plot devices that the author just thought of and they just don't fit well with the story. This doesn't have that sort of stuff. This has a very hardworking main character and very well fleshed out characters in general. When the main character achieves something, you feel like he completely deserves it because he's very hardworking. Also, I personally think you will get quite attached to some of the characters in this story. Again, I highly recommend reading this, and I would rate it a 7.7 out of 10.